business.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
Made it.
So glad to have you on the Walker Way again. And I appreciate your time. Like you said, I appreciate your hustle and everything else. Um, and obviously talking about the Everglades with Eve Samples, with Friends of the Everglades, CEO, reporter extraordinaire, advocate for the environment, um, uh, Florida Nobel Peace Prize winner, et cetera, et cetera. You've done such great things for the community, and we're so grateful to have you on. How you doing today?
I am good. Thank you for that too kind introduction. A lot more work to do before any prizes will be handed out on Everglades restoration.
It's a great thing that you're doing, and I totally appreciate all your hard work. And we have to have good advocates because, like we talked about, the Napoleon Browards of the world are still here, in different names, right? And I guess right before we got going on, I don't know if you can share or whatever how the meeting maybe went with the Army Corps or something like that, or if there's any major updates there for our listeners, that would be great.
Sure. So we're always juggling new developments from the Army Corps of Engineers and the South Florida Water Management District. Those are the federal and state partners that lead Everglades restoration projects. So today, what occupied a bunch of my time was a stormwater treatment area. That's a man-made marsh that's going to be built as part of the EAA reservoir project south of Lake Okeechobee. So the reservoir will be built. It'll be done around 2030. In the
Wow.
meantime, there's the stormwater treatment area, a 6,500 acre man-made marsh that's being built. And those of your listeners who were on the Treasure Coast during our lost summers will remember the toxic algae we got from the lake. And this project was sold to the public as sending more lake water south, cleaning it so it can go to the Southern Everglades, which needs it. And the reason we're paying close attention to this new STA is that it doesn't appear to be taking new lake water.
Oh.
Instead it's taking runoff from sugarcane fields south of the lake, existing runoff, and also a little bit of lake water that already moves south. So, the public is paying for this. The public was promised benefits, and a lot of our work at Friends of the Everglades is watchdogging the agencies and polluters, of course, but also the agencies that lead restoration to make sure we're actually getting benefits from it.
That's wild. So, and I mean, one of the things I know we tried to do this previously and everything, and try to get a little bit more prepared and everything. So I'm going to like kind of share my screen here. And this is, it's actually funny. I think it's like an airboat person website or something like that. But I thought it did a great job because it talks about the Greater Everglades ecosystem. I don't know if you're going to agree with these boundary lines or not, but the
Mhm.
Florida and state protected lands and waters, and then Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's River of Grass. And as we were talking about last time, this area up here, the headwaters and the Caloosahatchee and everything. So this area here is where what part of the lake are they planning on doing this?
It's almost due south of the lake, a little bit west. Yeah, close to where your mouse is there is where the EAA reservoir and the stormwater treatment area that accompanies it will be built. So we're watching that really closely to make sure the project achieves water quality standards and also takes Lake Okeechobee water south. We don't want to spend almost $4 billion for this project. It might end up higher than that by the time it's done, probably will. And we don't want to spend all that money just to clean existing flows that are already moving south. We want new lake water going south so it's not discharged east and west. Actually, I really like this map. It shows the historic system, and you see there's no connection from Lake Okeechobee to the St. Lucie River and Indian River Lagoon in the historic system. And that artificial connection with the C-44 canal is what gives us so much grief in the Stewart area. And we need those flows to move south. The
Yeah.
boundary lines are pretty good here. The red is the Greater Everglades. We definitely think about the Greater Everglades starting north of Lake Okeechobee in the Kissimmee River Valley. And the Caloosahatchee River did have a historic connection. Didn't get nearly the flows it gets now. And then flowing all the way down to the southern end of the peninsula and out to Florida Bay.
No, it's an amazing ecosystem, particularly when you can, picture it and see what it does and everything. So I guess so the concern is it's not lake water that's coming through, it's actually just runoff from the sugar.
Yeah, so there's about 400,000 acres of sugarcane fields south of Lake Okeechobee, primarily owned by two companies, US Sugar and Florida Crystals. And because of the polluted runoff from those fields, as a result of court orders to clean that polluted runoff over the years, taxpayers in South Florida have paid more than $2 billion to build these stormwater treatment areas, man-made marshes to clean that runoff. So these are already built and functioning, about 60,000 acres, clean runoff from sugarcane fields. You look on your tax bill, those are arriving in the mail over the past month, right? Look at Everglades construction project. That's what you're paying to clean up sugar's runoff. Most
Really?
of it goes toward that. So anyhow, we already have all that capacity. What the EAA reservoir project is supposed to do is add lake flows south, right? So
Yes.
that we can get some benefits and not have those damaging discharges. And we've got to make sure it actually does that.
That's great. And yeah, I mean, so it's amazing. And like you said, there when you're looking due east from Lake Okeechobee, this is I assume the Indian River Lagoon and everything. You don't see any type of natural waterway between here and the coast or anything. But you do see obviously there's a Caloosahatchee. When we were talking last time, we were talking about how Lake Okeechobee obviously is freshwater, the lagoon is brackish, and then obviously the ocean is saltwater. And that's what creates those out. Well, there's probably other things that create the algae bloom, but part of the problem is it's freshwater entering the brackish lagoon. And then, but we were also talking about like the lake levels. Is this the Caloosahatchee? Is that what causes the salinity issues on the West Coast? Because we were talking like the rainy time. They also have to have a very good balance on the other side, right?
Yeah, the Caloosahatchee River is very much a sister estuary to the St. Lucie River. Both need a really delicate balance of salinity for oysters, for seagrasses to thrive. And those are the foundations of the whole marine ecosystem in these estuaries. Um, there's one big difference though between these two rivers, these two estuaries. The St. Lucie River never needs any flows from Lake Okeechobee, even if that water was completely clean, fresh water, which it is not, it is highly polluted with phosphorus and nitrogen, we would not need it because the natural tidal flows are adequate, are the best thing for the St. Lucie estuary. On the Caloosahatchee side, as you can see in this illustration, there was a historic marsh-like seasonal connection to the lake. So during the dry season, they do actually need some flows so they don't get hypersaline over there. And let's give the Caloosahatchee all the flows they need during the dry season, right? That solves the problem of the high lake. When summer rolls around, that helps the problem of the high lake. And unfortunately, sometimes they have been actually cut off from their needed flows because the sugar industry south of the lake wants to hold water in the lake for irrigation. So a lot of competing interests. It's like a tug of war across the system.
Yeah, so the lake levels, obviously, like we were talking about, are controlled by the Army Corps, and there's water permitting by U.S. Sugar and Crystals, and so they want that water during the dry season, but then that causes problems with the Caloosahatchee and everything else, and so it's like sometimes the lake's too high, sometimes the lake's too low, and this man-made fluctuation or use of it for our own purposes is what ultimately causes these issues. So it's yeah, like you said, it's multi-part for us on the East Coast. I mean, not only is freshwater never supposed to be there, but it's dirty freshwater to boot, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a public health threat. If you were here in 2016, 2018, you remember our water was guacamole green.
Yep.
Those toxins in that algae, it's blue-green algae, also known as cyanobacteria. We know those toxins can be aerosolized. So you don't even have to come into contact with the water to be facing danger. The toxins can be made airborne, and some research shows they can travel up to a mile. There's not a lot of data on kind of the level of exposure that would lead to harm, medical illness. But we do know that it's a public health threat, and pets have died after coming into contact with the water. So a real problem. The one piece of good news is we have a new lake management plan from the Army Corps of Engineers. It actually just took effect in August. And this plan is much better than our old plan in the past. The old plan basically said, okay, the lake gets to X level of water, we're opening the floodgates. And they also factored in some forecasting, like meteorology. Now, if toxic algae is present in the lake, they have the ability to exercise flexibility as to timing of opening the gates. And also, most lake stages up to about 16 and a half or 17 feet, the St. Lucie River is not getting any water from the lake. Now, we know the lake can climb that high certain years, and it will. And once it gets that high, all bets are off. But it is a better lake plan than we had in the past. And really what we need to solve the problem permanently and to just close those gates to the St. Lucie forevermore is more land for water storage and treatment south of the lake.
Yeah, because and I mean it doesn't show here, but so is Sugar like directly south of the lake, or are they east of the lake, or west of the lake, or
Yeah. That beautiful green watercolor there, dark green,
yes.
is now, if you looked at it on Google Earth, it looks like a perfect patchwork quilt, perfect squares and rectangles of sugarcane fields. A little bit of vegetables in there, but by and large, it's sugarcane, and that's known as the Everglades agricultural area.
Yeah, and I was looking did a little bit of research. I think we were talking about, when the state of Florida was looking to buy out US Sugar, which was obviously, I mean, that would solve a chunk of problems. It wouldn't solve all the problems because Crystals is still there, and they ultimately were the ones who kind of blocked it. I believe the price tag I was looking at was like 1.7, 1.75 billion or something like that, to buy that out. Was that a complete purchase of the US Sugar? And that was like just boom, right?
Yes, as it was originally proposed, there's a complete buyout of the company. U.S. Sugar executives stood there with state leaders. Charlie Crist was governor at the time and said this was a deal to save the Everglades. They retreated from that position in the years that followed. But we do see some signs that U.S. Sugar in particular might be willing to part with some land. There are a couple of developments like a rock mine south of the lake that is emerging and maybe hopefully won't come to fruition, but they do seem to be looking at other options for land, which is interesting because we still need it for restoration and they have not come to the table as willing sellers for that.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, and we've talked before, but we almost, you want to like block their ability to get into any other industries because, we need that land for the water. And I know that they're talking about rock mines or, I think I remember there's a very famous golf course in Bowling Green area in Polk County called Stream Song. I know your husband plays golf. I play golf. It's a well-known golf course in Florida, out in the middle of nowhere. But I think it was Mosaic, they're like a mining company or something like that. And so I know that there's a belt of rock or some other mining. And so I guess that what they're looking to do at some point is to, if they don't get bought out by the government or something like that, is maybe shifting to a mining operation, right?
Yeah, this just popped up. So last month it became really visible, but it was really more late last year, last fall, that Florida Crystals and Palm Beach Aggregates, a mining company, and an engineering firm, Phillips and Jordan, proposed a rock mine for 8,000 acres, more than 8,000 acres in this same area we're talking about. It is farmed by Sugar now. And so US Sugar is one of the landowners, even though they're not one of the companies proposing the project. So interesting the way it was presented. It was filed as an application for a quote unquote water resources project. But when you dig into the details, you see that this is limestone rock mining that would leave a big hole in the Everglades and with no water quality or treatment function, no water treatment function. Because we Everglades restoration isn't just about moving water to the right places. It's also about cleaning the water. We can't have dirty water flowing south.
Yeah, and it's an amazing problem, and you were right. There's that patch quilt, right? And I mean, clearly the intent, from God and the environment was to, the lake would flow south, into the glades and down. Obviously, here's 75, and then we talked about Tamiami before. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's that patchwork you were talking about, and but that's quite a bit of land in between where the water is and where it needs to be, right?
Mhm. Yeah, there's a missing link there. And
Something's amiss here. But yeah, I mean,
yes. Mhm.
yeah, and then we talk also about the northern side of the lake and the agriculture there because and we kind of I kind of chunked it last time we talked into three different issues. You got the north side of the lake where all the agriculture is, which is polluting the lake, right? And then you have the south side, which causes the water flow not to be there, and then you have some roads that cause the impediment too.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah,
and
that's right. Tamiami Trail down there. There has been some bridging of the trail if you go a little farther south on your map, and that has helped with water deliveries into the park, into Everglades National Park. But we need more of that. And you're absolutely right. Agriculture north of the lake is the biggest single source of pollution, phosphorus pollution into Lake Okeechobee. And that Everglades agricultural area south, huge, huge swath of land is a blockade to moving clean water south to the Everglades.
yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's a huge issue, and yeah, you just see that. I mean, there's your stormwater treatment and everything else, but I mean, I mean, where the Army Corps and what you're talking about, obviously, there's more and more on the south side of the lake that's going to be used for lake cleansing and everything. What are they imposing tighter agricultural restrictions on the north side at all, or what's kind of going on over there?
Yeah, it's not a pretty picture, unfortunately. So the state of Florida regulates pollution from agriculture through something called Basin Management Action Plans, BMAPs. And these BMAPs rely heavily on quote unquote best management practices. So things like how much fertilizer farmers put on their land. And there's also a presumption of compliance that if you enroll in best management practices, you get a presumption of compliance. So we're not really measuring pollution at the tail end of a pipe or anything. This is called non-point source pollution in the terminology of the Clean Water Act. And when you look at the performance of these BMAPs, time and again, we are failing to meet pollution reduction targets. Lake Okeechobee is getting more and more polluted year after year. It's not a good situation for the lake. It's also very high right now, unfortunately. So that kills submerged aquatic vegetation on that lake. And the lake itself is, a really important part of Everglades ecology, and nobody wants to see it suffer either. So that's yet another reason not to keep it artificially high for irrigation of 400,000 acres of sugarcane south of the lake. We need to send that water south and clean it.
Yeah, and so I guess I mean, in a perfect world, the state of Florida, somebody has the political courage, and we have quite a windfall, and sugar is bought out, and there's find ways to make the water flow south. With the quality of the water as it is, because of what's going on the north side and the other agriculture and everything, would that be good for the Everglades?
Yes, so long as we have the water quality features of the project. So you got two things in these restoration projects. You got the reservoirs that hold the water, the storage, and then you've got the water quality component, which is stormwater treatment area. These are the marshes that have vegetation that take up phosphorus and do a really good job cleaning the water, but they have to be managed very carefully. The water can't get too deep. You need really big swaths of land to build effective stormwater treatment areas. I mean, the good news is the state of Florida has built 60,000 acres of them, like I mentioned earlier, already on our dime, on taxpayers' dime, and
Sure.
they've worked pretty well. But if we're going to move more water south, we need more STAs. We need more land for more STAs. And if you can go out to those STAs, take a drive south of the lake sometime. Some of them are open for recreation. Beautiful wildlife comes back and re-inhabits the ecosystem when you build them. So there's that added benefit too. It's not just about moving the water and cleaning the water. It returns to something that looks like the river of grass as God made it.
Sure, absolutely. And so, I mean, does it seem like they're running out of land to purchase, or is there like plenty of land absent sugar to get, or is it really kind of like a patchwork of land, but really the swath of it is just sugar farmland?
So the majority of it is owned by Florida Crystals and U.S. Sugar. There are some other owners dotted in there. There's something called the Sugarcane Growers Co-op. But there's a lot of land, and the soil in that area has been been declining over the years. There's in some places only about 6 inches of soil left in the EAA. So, there's a lifespan to sugar farming, and the question for Florida, for all of us, is what comes next. And um, we certainly don't think a rock mine is the best thing to come next. And this vital area that is really the key to the future of our water supply, the future of our ecology, the future of our health and economy by stopping harmful discharges east and west. So it's a really important moment now to think about what the next generation of Everglades restoration should look like.
I mean, and you're such a wealth of knowledge, and I could probably pick your brain for like hours and everything. But like you were at an Army Corps meeting, and you're meeting with donors and people who really love the Everglades and really want to invest in the future of our state and everything. And I really appreciate that. And so I mean, like for the people who are listening, like what are some ways that they can help support Friends of the Everglades and the Everglades movement?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So go to everglades.org. That's our website. You can learn about all the issues we're involved in and how you can get engaged. We're really proud of our organization. We were founded by Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in 1969. We still have a great grassroots connection with people who care about not just Everglades National Park, but the whole ecosystem that you and I are talking about. Back in Marjorie's day, dues were $1 a year, and she was sending out, written newsletters every so often. So now you can join our email list. We help you contact lawmakers with the click of a button. We have events in nature to make sure we're all getting out there and kind of restoring our mental health and remembering what we're fighting for. So I'd say go to our website, sign up for our emails. We'll tell you lots of different ways to get involved and also just to stay educated. This is complicated stuff. This water policy can get very complicated. The solutions and philosophy are pretty simple, and I think we just talked through them in 15 minutes here. But getting there can be complicated, and we want to help people understand it so they can take action.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like we said, I mean, there's multiple players. You got, cattle agriculture, other agriculture on the north side. You got sugar agriculture on the south side. And it reminds me of like, when you were in high school or something and talking about the soil, the dust bowls and everything that occurred, in the 20s and 30s and everything, their failure to do crop rotation and making sure that the soil was good. I mean, for all intents and purposes, all they do is farm sugar there, right? So there's a stripping of the nutrients and then a stripping of the soil that's happening there, and so the lifetime. And then I think people are getting wise somewhat to sugar. It comes and goes anyway. But I think
Yeah.
that industry it will have an expiration at some point, and we as citizens just need to be on top of it. So when that time comes, we do the right thing and everything. So, but by signing up for the newsletters, they'll get legislative updates.
Mhm.
Kind of what's going on. Contact your congressman, contact your state rep, senator, to put some pressure and do what you can. And I think we're running a little bit out of time, but we did talk a little bit last time about Jonathan Dickinson and
Mhm.
how much of a jewel this is on the Treasure Coast, and and what a great movement it was when people found a way to get collectively use social media, get with environmental groups like Friends of Everglades and really put the pressure on, and it mothballed, at least temporarily, kind of what was going on. I don't know if there's been an update in the last week or so, but is kind of can you summarize kind of why Jonathan Dickinson got targeted for golf courses when if you look in the Hope Sound area and Jupiter Island and stuff, there's polo clubs, and this is
Yeah.
obviously a golf course. There's golf courses, there's golf courses.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst for it? Where are we at now, and what can we do in the future?
Yeah, there was a proposal that came to light in August to build 3 golf courses on Jonathan Dickinson State Park, including some scrub habitat that is really ecologically valuable, kind of defied the essence of why people love Jonathan Dickinson so much. So this was a plan that was actually first proposed more than 10 years ago, and it was down back then. Jack Nicklaus was involved. Back then it was called the Jack Nicklaus Golf Trail, and it was going to be a series of golf courses at locations around the state. So it resurfaced. We got a leaked document from an employee at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and the press was on it. Everyday people were on it, environmental organizations like ours were on it. And in an incredible 8-day period in August, the governor did an about face for now, as you mentioned. So he said these plans were half baked, back to the drawing board. 9 other state parks also were subject to harmful development plans, not all golf courses. So, but we also are taking the governor at his word. He said these won't come back this year. So to me and to those of us in the advocacy community who are get skeptical, because in this line of work you do, that means they could come back next year. So we're watching for that, and we're working with allies to look at how we can strengthen state laws to make sure inappropriate development never comes to our state parks. So really a major success though. I mean, DEP had these meetings scheduled around the state, public hearings on them. They canceled the meetings, yet we still had 350 people at Flagler Park and Stewart the day and time of the meeting who just showed
Wow.
up to protest and speak up. So really heartwarming sign of support for our environment.
That's so huge. I mean, yeah, even when the officials aren't there, the energy was such that they were like, we're still showing up and showing you that this is not, we're not going to lay down and let this happen. And I remember just like the Facebook and the social media was just blowing up, and it was almost like this can't be almost real. Like, would they really do something like this? And yes, indeed, it was being planned and everything. So, being plugged in with your group, the people can hear about updates about that too, I'm imagining.
Yeah,
Um, and
definitely. And on Instagram, I know not everyone wants to, sign up for more emails, but we're on social media. However you get your news these days. I used to work for a newspaper, but that isn't as common anymore. Definitely check out your online news sites though, but we're on social media as well.
No, it's amazing, and yeah, we'll definitely keep it. But yeah, I mean, I think when the governor is a lawyer like myself, and when he says this year, you can, he didn't say indefinitely or mothballed forever. I mean, he said this year, so we can almost be assured that they'll revamp it. They'll probably try and do a dog and pony show. They'll probably try and make it as environmentally friendly as possible, or whatever they're going to try to do to try and placate people. But ultimately, other than what God designed here for this scrubland is adverse to the future of Florida. So
Yeah.
thank
It's
you.
it's really a special place, and it kind of separates our community here in Stewart from the rest of South Florida, the never-ending metropolis. So I've been out there since all this erupted, and I'm savoring it in a new way, knowing that it was threatened.
Yeah, it's almost and to be able I mean, and I've been out there several times myself, and yeah, to look out there now and say, oh my gosh, this could be gone, and we need be grateful for what we have as it is, because other people that, like we talked about at the beginning, the Napoleon Browards of the world, the developers of the world, there's still a mindset of, let's not think about the future of Florida and rising sea tides, the Indian River, the Everglades, or anything like that. Let's think about development and finding ways to develop this beautiful ecosystem. So it's wild.
Yeah, there are never-ending battles to fight, and there are also so many people who care deeply about our wild Florida, and so many of them here in our community. So that motivates me, keeps me going.
It does, and you have a lot of fans, and it's big. And Land Remembered is always a book that I always turn to, and Rivers of Grass, that's always huge. So, but thank you so much for taking the time
Yeah,
to speak with us about Everglades, what's going on, Jonathan Dickinson, how we can help, how we can get plugged in with Friends of Everglades. If those of you who are watching, listening, please go to the website everglades.org, and
correct.
you can find out all the information there. Follow them on Instagram and their social medias. Stay plugged in, find ways to give back, and do what you can. So thank you so much, Eve Samples,
Thanks,
for
Travis.
all your hard work, and you have a great day.
Thanks. I appreciate the conversation. Take care.